We've had limited guild battle over the last couple days, and frankly, I've been having a blast. I've been running a fire team using Sitya, Winter Mashery, and Nasha, the MR tank. I've seen a lot of people over the limited guild battle use Nasha, and I'm really glad she sees some play. I've been saying for a long time that she is a fantastic tank in terms of her staying power, but this season has definitely demonstrated that while she does stay on the field pretty long, she has a pretty severe issue with agility, and quite often she doesn't even get to generating hate. In my setup, I didn't have anything on her to give her innate hate. I could have used the bow tie, or I could have went with something a bit different like Fryevia's Vision card. Or Vow of Love, but I figured she would have time to use Taunting Blades, and it was only true in some fights. Still, overall, it was a very fun experience playing it. And today what I'll do is I'll just show you the recording of a couple of the matches that I found to be the most entertaining and while commenting, and then I'll also show you the team I've been using on offense. Do keep in mind though, this is a map that has fire attack up, which is a clear advantage for a unit like Sitya and a unit like Winter Mashery. And then on top of that, there's no Courage or Re-Raise, which makes the light element a lot weaker than it would otherwise be. So I'll be winning some fights against light, against other elements. I'm not saying the fire team is stronger than them. I'm just saying that in this map, it performed very well for me. And then the damage that Sitya does with the extra fire attack up on this match is actually quite impressive. One thing that you'll see when I'm showing you the build is that I'm running the bow tie on Sitya. It's not really because of the stats on the bow tie, it's for the -1 movement, which forces her to stay slightly behind Nasha. I did say Nasha is extremely good at staying behind and not doing her job, so I needed some form of compensation. So here we're looking at match 2 on the same day, and what I'll do is after this match, I'll show you my team, and then back to some more matches. But yeah, I've been attempting to target ice teams as much as I could. There was only 2 users of fire teams on offense in my guild, which meant that whenever somebody was running some form of ice defense, we would target them with the fire teams, and it was pretty much a guaranteed kill. And then since we often ran out of ice units to target because most guilds would have 1 or 2 people on an ice defense, then I would be forced to target a light team more often than not. And the matchup against Jaden has been a very tricky one. I feel like out of the light units, the others aren't as big a deal, but he definitely is an issue. Starlet Elena, I was very afraid to face because she can get very evadey, and Sitya doesn't really have any accuracy up in her kit. But the way I've been running her, she's got an accuracy up Esper, and then a decent-ish amount of luck. So she hasn't been missing that much against Elena. Still, though, I was probably pretty lucky in the matchups I got. The other way we have of dealing with Elena could be just using Mashery and her Sharpshoot. But there we go. So in a fight like this, Elena just takes the hit from the first attack, and then, well, she's almost dead. I needed just a bit more damage. This one was a bit earlier in the week, so I did not have the Brachiosaurus VC. If I did, during that fight, she would have just died right there. But in this specific fight, I was using the Phoenix VC on Sitya instead, and while it provides her with more attack, the 55 less mod on her damage is not enough to compensate for that. So in this fight, I thought it was interesting. I've seen a bunch of people run Engelbert on the right side of the map, and it seemed to me to be less impactful than running him elsewhere. Maybe because in a lot of fights, my Sitya with her very long range would kill the carry that's sitting on the other side of the map. In this fight, though, he does do a pretty good job of splitting from the other guys, and it forces me to not hit Elena while she's closing in, which is very scary. Something I've noticed about Sitya is she basically can't kill Engelbert. This guy is way too tanky to physical attacks, and without a mage, it's really hard to get him down. And on my second fight, a common weakness I've been running into is the fact that Winter Mashery hasn't been using bells. I had Ember Light Vitality on her, the Lucio's TMR, and because of that, she runs out of steam very quickly. She's been basic attacking Engelbert for this fight, and she's still out of AP to try to go after the others. So, especially in a fight where I need her Sharpshoot, it's really tough to make it work. In this fight, she ends up walking next to Nasha, takes an AoE attack from the enemy Starlet Elena, and I'm sure you guys know how damaging these attacks are. So we end up losing 2, and at that point, it basically has to be Sitya against 2 people, which is pretty risky. Luckily for me, she does land the first hit she tries on Elena, so far, no misses on her. And then this enemy Fina is set up with both healing and cheer, which can be a bit weird. I do walk in her range and take the first hit, and at that point, I was very scared, because one more hit and I would go down. But I do get in range, and even if she has Protect, it's not enough to survive an attack from Sitya, so there we go. We managed to win that one. It was close, though. So here's the team we were running. For most of the season, I had the Phoenix VC on Sitya, and on Nasha, I was running the MR Lockup Vision card. That's Fire Element and gives single target resistance. Which one is it? This one. So that might be surprising, but it was actually pretty good. It also gave HP to Nasha. When I finally finished Brachiosaurus, I had to make the switch, and now I was running 3 Fire Vision card, and then the team was actually much stronger that way. My second unit was Nasha with as much spirit as I could get her in the gear, mostly. With that, she was able to survive both physical and magical threats fairly well, especially since she was increasing her defense and spirit on turn 1 with the Swift Wind manual. One very important thing is I had a weapon that decreased AP cost, and that allowed her, after 2 abilities, to start spamming Taunting Blade. Without that, she would have needed 1 more turn before getting that online, and I would have just lost everybody in the back. So this was definitely very important for my team. And then finally we had Winter Mastery, also set up as a ranger so she could attack from a distance, but mostly so she could barrage and hit several people together. I think one reason why this team ended up working is I could very often catch enemies in a big AoE attack, so that was very important for me, being able to hit their tank and the others, because I don't have really good tank melting ability. With that said, overall this season, my team has been stopped twice. One of them, well, I'll show you both on screen, so I'm not going to spoil what happens, but those happened. And then on one of the days, there was a pretty big issue I faced, which was that there was no ice team to target at all. The entire enemy guild had either wind teams or light teams. And while my fire team could do very well against a wind setup that used mages because of how high the magic resistance was on our squad, a lot of people on our guild was running ice and could take them down even better than I could. So I was kind of forced to default to light, and this is the day we'll look at. And it ended up being pretty fun. I said how scary Jaden was. He definitely is. If he's hitting anybody but Nasha, he can wreck my team pretty quick. Winter Mastery has an innate weakness to missile attacks, and so he can 2-shot her even though she has almost 9,000 HP. And then Sitya is a little bit less squishy, but she barely survives the first hit from any Jaden, and then the second hit takes her down, so it's a very risky position to be in. I kind of wish her ability that gave her slash and magic resist would instead give missile and magic resist, and then she would have better missile duelist capabilities. But here, see, she takes a Magic Blast at the beginning of fight number 1. This is not ideal. My team has 0 healing that it can do, so basically that hit is going to stay throughout whatever battle 2 if we do get to a second battle. But in this case, the Jaden advanced just enough for Nasha to get some hate, which was very important, and then they also all grouped. And I think you might have seen in the first day of battle I've showed you that her damage is pretty damn high. So she ends up dropping her LB on all 3 enemy members, and it's just short of killing the Jaden. If it had killed him, that would have been such a good day. But instead, he's able to hit Nasha a little bit more, and Mashari's not even in range to attack. That was pretty bad, but it didn't matter that much because she would have just killed Jaden, and Sitya's able to do that with her AoE attacks. So another hit decreases healing power, which would have been good if Fina was still alive, but hey, she's already down, so we're not going to complain. And at that point, Mashari finally gets in range, jumps, but does not have time to land because Sitya plays one more time, uses the barrier break, and finally wins fight number 1. It was a very stressful one. And then fight number 2 on that same day, I said the entire enemy team was light, pretty much, so I ended up targeting another light team. It was a risky move, because I had used up most HP on my Sitya. If she gets one unlucky early hit, like she did in the first fight, I would lose, because without her damage from the backline, it's certain I lose. But I took the bet that it would somehow be fine, and our guild needed me to hit, so I had to. And one edge we had this time is that in this fight, Mashri did not end up using AP. She wasn't in range ever of the enemy team, so she was actually still able to do damage. So even if we do lose Sitya early on, maybe we'll get some good damage from Mashri. And while Mashri's missile attacks aren't that damaging, she has really good jumps. But here, because of the way the enemy's hate is distributed, Sitya moves in a weird way. She's right behind my tank, all the way in the back. It's almost impossible for the enemy Jaden to hit her for now. And then enemy Fina just walks into Mashri and gets one-punched by her barrage, so I don't have to deal with her anymore. At that point, the enemy team groups again, takes a hit, Nasha moves in with a Taunting Blade, and her damage is enough to kill the Jaden, which really surprised me. We do have the Ifrit VC, which gives her a little bit more attack, but Nasha's not designed to be a very strong attacker in our team. And I guess it's the power of the UR Myth Gravenblade here. And at that point, I mean, Engelbert can certainly do something, but I don't think he'll be able to kill them both, especially since I get a lucky stun in. And that was just the perfect ending for a really weird day of battle, but somehow the team made it through it, so I was very happy that day. So there we go, 2 wins against Light this time. I am, however, not saying that I won all my matches. So in the season, I was stopped twice. The first time on my first attack, and then the other time on my second attack, trying to get a 6-star. And this is one of those, but I won't tell you if it's the first or the second battle that I lose until you see it happen. You can try to take bets. As I said, I was attempting to target ice teams most of the time, right? And you would imagine that if you don't want to get killed by a fire team, you set one water unit with your ice team. But almost all ice teams I faced that had a splash of another element had Cloud. And Cloud is a pretty big threat for my team because he has really good AoE capabilities, so he can hit my Setya and Nasha together. And then he's able to kill anybody quickly, so Nasha cannot survive him at all. If she has a barrier, he's going to break it with Ascension. If she has a very high amount of defense, he ignores 60% of it, so it doesn't really matter. And then she doesn't really have any kind of AoE or single target resistance the way I run her, so that's not going to save her. So in that match, the enemy ended up just hasting their Nasha in the back. They had a Time Mage. Cloud ends up moving forward, and I kind of wish that I can hit him, but he's not in range just yet, so Mashri ends up throwing a barrage early on, loses her capability to use AoE attacks because of it. And then I finally end up attacking, but Setya's not in range, which is pretty bad because Cloud gets the initiative on her. She takes a barrage. It's not enough to kill, right? He is the only lightning unit in a mostly ice team, so he doesn't have the support from all the VCs he would otherwise have. But it's still enough to put me in the 1-punch margin. Any attack now is going to kill Setya. Enemy Nasha uses Taunting Blade, very important. Without that, we are kind of in trouble. So here we go. Mashri jumps, and then Setya drops a hit on 2 of the enemy members. That one, pretty good. It's the limit break. I really love the animation, so I'm kind of glad we get to see it a couple times. But yeah, on ice units, this is pretty good, but it's not been as impressive as I thought on Valentine Solier. Because of her barrier, she's able to survive it, even though she's an ice unit, which is pretty bad. So here, we end up losing Sitya to the second barrage. I did say the large AoEs from Cloud have been a bane of my team. Detonation Blast, though, doesn't really do much, and then she takes a pretty big hit and goes down. So can Cloud win against 2? Big question, right? He can, because of that. That sharpshoot would have killed him. Or, I guess, because otherwise she would have used a jump. So he dodges it, plays once, laps, plays again, and kills us. Yep. 1 loss to Reflex. And then the final day I'll show you is the other one where I got to stop, and my idea for that day, not showing you the other days, is because they're all against ice teams, and it's basically a massacre. You're going to see ice team melt while trying to get to my team, and they more often than not died without even dealing any points of damage to anybody but my tank. So when I could target ice teams, it was pretty good. And I think that's part of the nature of those limited guild battle, is unless you're fighting light or dark, you can just play the elemental roulette game and completely obliterate your enemies. And that's what happened for this fight 1, right? We'll see it shortly. You'll see at least one win, a very unfair win against an ice team. but they don't really have a means of reaching me. Most ice units, unless they're called Valentine Solier, die in a single hit against Setya's limit break. And that is very... I mean, it's just not fair, because she's going to get the first hit because she hits from very far away. And so there's not really any way for her to lose the fight. And then in this case, they have a really good tank in the form of Engelbert, but he's so far away from their Victora that it's not like he can draw hate away from her. He's got pretty good mobility, and he is going to take the hit from Winter Macherie, which is good. But does Setya reach him? Maybe she would have if she did not have the bow tie. Maybe that's what screwed him over a little bit. But here, she can't reach Engelbert just yet, so she's just going to drop the limit break on Victora, and that enemy team has a single damage threat. If Victora goes down, they don't have any way of killing people on my team, so she just takes over 8,000 damage from that hit. Don't know how much HP she had, don't really care. She goes down, and then we have all the leeway we want to just go for Engelbert. I really enjoyed the fact that Macherie used her limit break. I did not from a gameplay standpoint, because it's a huge waste of AP for basically no damage. But it is cool, I never get to see that LB, so I was happy because of it. Now naturally, Engel goes back to full HP, I'm in a bit of trouble, and then Setya's like, yep, healing is a big issue, let's remove healing power from everyone on their team. And this first heal did what, 4,000 or so? Healing power, the way it works, is influenced by both the healing power of the target and the caster. So if both of them have healing power down, you can imagine that healing is negated almost completely. So here it'll be, well, you'll see when it finishes casting, but I'll let you try to guess how much that healing is going to go down from. It was 4,000 on the first cast, and this time it's a big old 1,000, or 700 if you're looking at Rosa. Not a lot of heal coming in. But here we go, we take down the first team, and then let's go for fight 2. So here's fight 2, and you might recognize that that is the same guy that had a stop on my team the first time. My team hadn't taken a lot of damage before going in. The fight 1 was pretty much one-sided. And then on the first time I fought this guy, the only reason he won was because Cloud had a reflex. So I figured if I target him again, I have a shot. But we're going to see how it plays out, right? Reflex is a big issue in a lot of scenarios, but Setya does have an attack that cancels it. So her big attack that removes healing power also removes counter chance. So if that procs at the right setup, then it's just a win. But there we go. So one big change that I had in between these fights is that this time it's my fight number 2, right? And that means Macherie has a lot less AP. So in the previous one, she could use Barrage and just keep spamming some very powerful hits. But this time she doesn't have access to it. This opponent does not seem to have changed his setup much. So Visalier advances, then moves back and casts Haste. Which allows their Nasha to move forward. And this time, Setya is, again, not in range for Cloud. If I had watched that recording from my previous match again, I might have not targeted him, because it's very bad for me. But I kind of forgot how this Cloud managed to stay out of my range while I was going for him. And just like the previous one we recorded, this is where it's going to start being different, actually, because Macherie's out of AP, and this time she doesn't actually do much. My Setya is able to attack, again goes for their backline with a pretty strong skill, but none of them are dead just yet. And then Nasha hasn't had time to gather any hate, so that allows Cloud to just go for my backline with a triple slash. That part is extremely bad, because I just lose my only carry that has AP. You can already tell which direction this match is taking, but here we take down Visalier, and then Macherie for some reason decides to go all the way across the map before firing a sharpshoot. I would have much preferred to see her stay close so she could basic attack Nasha, because now she actually walks out of basic attack range, and she's also out of AP. What is she going to do with her next turn? I don't know either. Nothing good. So yeah, she walks and waits, not even generating AP. That was a big part of why the match would turn out bad. Then at that point, Cloud uses Mega Slash. With this setup, he still has 78 AP. He's used his Limit Break, a Barrage, a Mega Slash, and a Triple Slash, and he still has that much. So he just plays again, goes for basic attack at the end. So overall, I just wanted to show you guys a couple fights, have some, get your feedback on how you thought limited guild battle was. Typically I change teams a lot because I want to test out a bunch of different stuff, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and it felt like even though there is a fire attack up on the map, nobody was playing fire because it's just not a strong or a popular element at the moment, so it was interesting for me to leverage it. But let me know, what kind of funky units did you run, or what did you find the most enjoyable during this season? I would be very happy to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I'll be back. I think I'll keep doing that. If it's something you guys enjoy, showing you what I run during limited guild events, now that I'm in a more competitive guild, I definitely have an interest, which I did not have necessarily when I became a content creator initially. But I realize it is a game mode with very high amounts of competition, so it's very fun to run. On that note, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll be back soon with another video.